in Nashville, Tennessee. You are listening to the Nashville Daily Podcast. Nashville's #1 daily podcast. Brought to you by Think Nashville. Think Nashville. Think Brad. Think Brad. It's Nashville Daily Podcast.
Hey, Nashville, and good morning. I'm Stuart Deming, and today's episode is brought to you by ThinkBrad.com. If you're looking for real estate here in Middle Tennessee, you need to visit Brad Reynolds at ThinkBrad.com, 615-856-3270. You can text them right now. I think he's also still listing his houses for really like low price right now.
Okay.
Yeah. For that, you remember that giveaway that he was doing?
Oh,
I think that's happening until March, where he's listing a house for somebody for free.
All right. Well, make sure you're texting Brad because you don't want to miss out on that.
Because March is coming around the corner, very, very fast. Also joining me in the studio is Aaron Pennington and Eric Jackson.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the deep topics of business and all AI and all the other things.
Okay. So I am half unicorn. So that means
So you were born on the county
have-
line?
I was
Born on the county line.
I
That's a good
moved to
one.
Nashville. I moved to Gallatin, Tennessee in 1977.
Okay.
I was 9 years old. So I came from somewhere else, but I mean from 9 to I'm 54
Okay.
now. That's a pretty good long haul in
When
in
you say
Nashville.
half of a unicorn, is it like literally half of the like?
Which half do you see yourself?
Hopefully the good half. So I've seen a lot in Nashville over my many years. And, yeah, like I said, grew up in Gallatin, Tennessee. I moved here actually because of nuclear power. My dad.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because we just talked about that last week. The state of Tennessee is investing $50 million into nuclear power
Really?
research and for startups to start coming to Nashville, or not to Nashville, to Tennessee.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess I was on the leading edge of it, or not me, but my dad
Yeah.
went to work for TVA.
Okay.
TVA was building a nuclear plant in Hartsville,
Yep.
Tennessee.
Yes, I've seen the
Cooling
seen
tower.
the tower there.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I got here, and I've kind of seen Nashville when it was backwater. Nobody really was wanting to move here, to what it is now, and it's been pretty amazing. So that was my upbringing.
What are your thoughts about Gallatin? So Gallatin was historically like a really big farming town.
Yep.
And now it's becoming. And I've said this a few times on the podcast. I think Gallatin's going to become the next Franklin.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is you have like Facebook moving there. You have a few of these strategic businesses moving there. You also have the renovations of that executive airport up there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Gallatin is on the pinnacle of becoming the next Franklin. So what are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I think it's possible. They've got water, they've got the river, got an airport.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not hemmed in by any geographic. So Hendersonville has a problem in that the river basically runs right through Hendersonville, and there's no easy in and out to places. There's no shortcuts. In Hendersonville.
They've got the lake. Which
got the lake.
They'll probably say, "Hey, we'll take the lake. You guys have fun with the river. We'll be on the lake while you guys deal with that."
I went up there on Saturday, and I went to what's the hot chicken place up there? Slow Burn.
Yeah.
I went there on Saturday, and I'm like, wow, this traffic is as bad as Nashville traffic in Hendersonville on a Saturday.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and apologize to all my friends who still live there. They're just not as savvy at driving as we are in Nashville. There's just not this urge to move and go fast. But Gallatin has a lot of resources. There's a lot of land up there left to develop. Hopefully they're not going to ruin it all.
Yeah,
but
and I think they've been intentional about like the infrastructure too.
Yeah.
So like I think of 109 and just how precise that like byway is going into Gallatin.
Yeah, and it was 2 lanes for the longest time. I mean, it was one. I kind of had this chip on my shoulder being from Gallatin that there was never quite enough development in that town, and now it's kind of hit its stride. Driving up and down 109 used to be a nightmare. Now it's a nice 4-lane highway. It's well positioned. It's near I-65, close enough. It's a diverse community in many ways, and just it was a great place to grow up. But I think you're kind of right. I mean, it's got that downtown core. It's got
It's
a real
fantastic.
downtown.
Yeah. We were just driving through
It's
it.
unique.
I think the other day I was driving through it at least.
I think you were. I don't know if I was or not.
I don't know. I've been to Dixon, Gallatin. I've been to wherever we went. We travel a lot. So
Yeah.
but the downtown in Gallatin's really nice, and I think there's so much potential. And if you remember in Franklin, in the late 90s to early 2000s, Franklin was not Franklin.
Right.
Like the main street was like abandoned buildings, and like it didn't look that like polished as it does today. And I think Gallatin has that can go for them here soon. What are your thoughts on Gallatin, Aaron?
So the issue with Gallatin is it's hard to see that when it's not that yet. The issue that I think Gallatin's going to have is Franklin may have had enough people willing to transform it. I don't know if Gallatin's going to be like, yes, bring it on, we want to be the next Franklin, or if they're going to say, take it somewhere else. We're going to develop our community to make sure it has nice upgrades and be super friendly and super business friendly, but we don't want to be the next Franklin. We don't want that kind of insane visitorship so that's going to be the very interesting thing that Gallatin and everybody's going to have to make really soon is everybody in Gallatin, do they want to be the next Franklin? Do they want to pass that on to somebody else? Now, where that would be?
Probably the home prices. They don't want the home prices of Franklin.
Yeah.
Dixon could be that.
Potentially.
But Gallatin would have to pass it on to somebody else.
Dixon County would not want the home prices of Franklin. I will put a stamp on that.
Yeah.
With my experiences in Dixon County, that's not happening.
Well, Gallatin has changed a lot. It was around 10,000, 12,000 people when I was growing up in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And now most people, like a lot of Nashville, they're from somewhere else.
Yep.
And so
true.
there's sort of this dichotomy between the people who, are old school old school Gallatin and don't want to see all this change, and the realities of, you can have some nice things if you grow economically, have more people come in. So I believe they're going to continue to grow. I mean, one of our clients is the Sumner County Convention and Visitors Bureau, sumnertourism.org, I believe. And so they're very cognizant of, it's nice to have people from out of town come and leave their money here and then go home, so we don't have to educate their kids and whatnot.
Yep.
So, I think Sumner County as a whole, there's a lot of upside. It's it has not grown like Williamson County has in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's always sort of been. And I lived there up until 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We always kind of had a chip on our shoulder about, we're basically the same distance from Nashville as Brentwood and Franklin. Why not us? And so I think it's coming.
Yeah.
And the thing about Sumner County is the lack of accommodations for hotels.
Yes.
And there's also a very large lack in attractions.
Yes.
Compared to Williamson County.
Try having a meeting with 150 people.
In Gallatin?
Yeah. There's just not many venues.
You got to go to a park.
You have to you have to go to a park, or you have to go down to Lebanon and you rent out the Ag Center.
Yeah. We've seen people from other counties who have rented out buildings in counties far, far away in order to have those meetings. We just happen to stumble upon it because we, like Sir said, we're out and about so much and we just stumble upon these things. But you have to go somewhere else, which is to have a meeting probably for and about your city in somewhere else. That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
but you have to. You have to.
A few times. What are your thoughts? So Clarksville, Montgomery County, they're getting a new arena that just is about to open.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe, what was the scale? Like 6,000 seats or 5,000 seats in the convention center.
I mean,
up there, something like that.
It would hold a really, really good sized concert XFL game.
Maybe it's 3,000 seats. Somebody comment below what the
rodeo, something like that. I mean. And it's going to be really good. Predators
are going to have an ice rink up there as well.
Okay.
So they have the one down, the Ford Ice Center down in Murfreesboro. They have the one in West Nashville, the one in Clarksville. Do you think Sumner County needs something like that as well?
As a hockey fan, huge Predators fan, season ticket holder, I would like to see ice in a lot of places because it creates more fans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kids are going to play hockey, and then naturally they're going to want to see hockey played at a high level, and they're going to drag their parents to games. That's what has worked for sports for
Where'd you
years.
move down to Nashville from?
I lived in Hendersonville. Oh, you mean when I was a kid?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I moved from Newport News, Virginia. My dad worked for the shipyard there.
Did you guys have hockey there? Because I know, Stuart, you grew up in New York, so you had.
My school did not have hockey,
But
hockey was the cultural.
Hockey was the cultural
sport.
thing. I didn't know if it was.
I didn't know
where
it
you were.
existed until 1980. I mean, when the Miracle on Ice happened, that was my first introduction to hockey, and I kind of feel.
That's when the U.S. beat the Russians, right?
Right,
Yep.
yeah, in the semis, and then they beat whoever was in the final. I kind of feel like I was deprived of something as a kid because I feel like I would have been a good hockey player. I've got great hand-eye coordination. I don't know if I can skate well or not, but it's nice and violent, and there's lots of fun things about hockey.
And then they started to restrict it.
Yeah, it's a little soft now, but.
There was a few. So there's 2 minor league teams where I grew up, and I can't remember the names of them because they change so often. But there was such a not a hatred, but they just did not get along.
Yeah,
and
a true rivalry between minor league teams.
But yes,
that's great.
but the coaches went on the ice one time and started fist fighting.
Oh, that's when you know it's real.
This was
if the goalies start fighting.
Oh, it was fantastic. The security had to come on ice and separate people. They had to cancel the game. This was 2003, 2004. So I'll see if I can find footage from that game. I doubt it. But it was hilarious to see because everyone's just like, okay, well the coaches they're fist fighting. It was amazing. But that was probably my favorite hockey memory.
Yeah.
What's one of your favorite hockey memories?
It would be the Stanley Cup run in, what was that, 2017?
17.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, my God. Just the best
We got
hockey
to see Broadway just absolutely packed with LED screens everywhere.
I went to the
felt
first game
like
against the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was packed out like the NFL draft was, Broadway was, and it was fantastic.
And people were paying ridiculous prices to get tickets. And I'm, 8 rows behind the visitors bench, so you can almost smell the hockey.
Yeah.
And I got so excited at one goal. I had a buddy with me that I jump up out of my seat, and my blood pressure drops occasionally when I'm standing up, and I literally passed out on the person next to me.
Oh shoot!
And they're like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, it just happens occasionally. It freaked them out a little bit, but it was one of those events that kind of transformed the city. And really, Nashville was already on the map.
Yeah.
But that took it to an even higher level.
Yep.
And then they drafted 2 years after that.
Yeah. I mean, that was amazing. That was one of the things that I think catapulted Nashville into becoming one of the best sports teams in 2019. That momentum really helped.
Yeah.
For sure, which was great. So that is very cool to see. I really like hearing the things that have a defining moment for Nashville, and I think that was definitely one of them. Amazon making their announcement into Nashville, definitely think was one of them.
Oracle,
yeah.
And they kind of just slid in there. They didn't really make a whole lot of noise about it.
And now Amazon's stopping everything.
Yeah, they're stopping construction on that building.
Construction, renovation of that, whatever's going on inside that second building, everything has stopped.
Which is interesting.
I think do you think they'll sell it?
Oh yeah.
I've heard
they're going to sell that tower.
I've heard they've changed their model. What they're really going to do here in Nashville.
Okay.
That's about all I know.
Yeah.
I hear things occasionally.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you have been a business owner for how long?
Wow. I started in 93, I think. 93, 94 was my first business. My education was in advertising. I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, majored in advertising. I was always.
You go to a lot of football games then?
Oh yeah.
Were you there for the what was it, the Georgia, or not the Georgia, the one where they took down the goal?
The
post.
Alabama game. Yeah. I'll show you the picture later.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was on the field.
Oh, that's awesome.
And did you pay your part of the fine?
No, because you pay for tickets.
Yeah. So my number is 47, right? My company is Element 47, and so I have a guy that I go to the games with on a regular basis bought me a jersey number 47, and I'm on the field. There's complete chaos going on. I don't really see. I can see that there are players on the other end of the field. I'm on the south end near the river, and I look up, and there's a guy with the number 47 running toward me.
Like an actual football player?
An actual football player. I'm like, dude. And I showed him the jersey, and we had a picture made together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it turns out he's from Franklin. Matt Gacka is his name. Yeah.
He probably got so excited that somebody finally wore his number. He's like, nobody ever wears my number. And then he's like, oh, my gosh, yes.
What position is he?
He's a linebacker, and he had a bigger smile on his face than I did.
Wow.
Of course, I had a cigar in my mouth.
Yeah.
But, so advertising was my thing. I loved print. I loved design. So I went into the printing industry after college, and I ended up forming a design group with a guy who had a lot more experience than me. I could tell you that whole story. He asked me, have you ever thought about owning a business? I'm like, no, man. My dad worked for TVA. My mom was a secretary. Just wasn't a thing that I really considered. So we started this business. It transformed a couple of times and turned into, a few million a year in revenue, and then the industry completely changed. So, AI would not be the first time.
Because of the internet?
The .com.
It was really more about, this is going to get into printing nerd stuff, but
that's fine.
When you, in the old days, when you printed something, you had to have film.
Yep.
And the film you would shoot the film on top of a plate that went on the printing press. Well, that film all went away. It went direct to plate. You could image whatever you wanted to put on the page on a plate from some machine. And so we were a film house, and we were creating the film that made printing possible.
Wow.
And then all the printing companies were going out and buying this direct-to-plate equipment, and we're out here selling film that nobody really wants. And so it was declining.
Yeah.
And I saw this happening. My partners wanted to buy printing equipment, and I was kind of done at this point.
So you were kind of like Kodak when digital cameras came out.
Yeah. It was that's going to happen to you typically 2 or 3 times in your lifetime, where whatever you happen to be doing is going to maybe disappear unless you're in long haul trucking or HVAC business, which my brother is in. There's just different ways that technology can come in and completely disrupt it. So I saw that coming. And I asked my partners to buy me out, and then I started a web development firm. And hopefully that will stick. That's for a while.
So your web development form is called your web development firm is called Element.co.
Element47.co.
Yep. So you do probably a lot more than just web development. You guys do SEO strategy. You guys do advertising and all that. So to walk us through like what your day-to-day operation is like.
Yeah. So most of the people that we are talking to, they have a business or a nonprofit or some sort of organization they want to promote, and through the media, through the internet, various ways, you get bits and pieces of what people are doing. Like people are using AI now, or hey, there's a hot new social networking platform. There's TikTok, all these things, and so people come to us and go, "What I really need to do is I need to be on TikTok, or I need to be on Instagram, or I need email marketing." And in my head, I'm always thinking, well, what you need to do is calm down, because we need to have a strategy first.
Yes, of course.
There are steps to things, right? You got to prepare. You want to make sure that you're going after the right target. So you want to make sure you understand who you are, really.
Yeah, it's like learning scales and keys and how to play before you go and try to play Beethoven.
Exactly. Nobody wants to hear you play Smoke on the Water 5,000 times in a row.
It's like, what's the guitar one? So anyway, like was it Wonderwall or something like that?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like the go-to for guitar players.
Oh, yeah. I've just purposely never learned that. It kind of came after I learned how to play guitar. But, ask my mom. You don't want to hear Smoke on the Water 10,000 times. And she actually mentioned that to me recently.
She's like, I got so annoyed after 9,000 times.
That song haunts me now.
Yeah. Well, in true Nashville fashion, I still have the first guitar I ever picked up. I learned how to play guitar.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I never desired to go and live that life. Anyway, what were we talking about?
So you're talking about strategy. And then you mentioned you need to know yourself before you start.
Yeah, and you know, a band like Kiss, for example, very transformational for me. It was, you know, these guys in makeup and there's fire and there's blood.
They were on the Super Bowl advertising last night.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a great commercial.
It really was. Paul Stanley. Yeah. But they purposely decided that, hey, this is our persona. This is who we're going to be. We're going to be outrageous. We're going to be dangerous. We want to scare parents. We're going to look like comic book characters. That's going to appeal to kids. And me in the, you know, 5th grade, that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I had an older kid who lived down the street who turned me on to Kiss. And so if you were going to a Kiss concert, you know exactly what you could expect. And that's what we're trying to help our clients with. We want them to understand who they are, what audience they're trying to attract, what message they're trying to send, what songs they're going to play, what are the things that you come to expect from that brand. And a lot of companies don't really dive deep into that, and that's where the goal is.
So the 47 part of Element 47, can you talk about how that came to be?
Yeah. So, you know, I told you, moved here as a kid, 9 years old, and my dad worked for TVA. He was not the nuclear engineer, so, I mean, we had limited resources. And when we would go anywhere on vacation, it was me and my brother and sister. My brother is 4 years younger than me, and my sister 5 years younger than me. And we would do what normal kids did. Of course, there's no devices, you know, so we're, you know, waving at truckers and punching each other and asking our parents questions.
Or playing the game I Spot.
Yeah.
I Spy.
Yeah. Or I Spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty boring, you know. There was no devices. So we would ask my dad, how much longer, how many more miles, all those typical questions, you know. And there was not Waze, so we did not know. And we just knew it was New Orleans was somewhere and that we were trying to get there. And so my dad just got sick of answering questions like so many parents do, and we would ask how much longer, and he would just say 47. And what does that mean? You know, is that miles? Is that minutes? 47. And so he's said it so many times that we finally realized he had no intention of answering our questions, and we were just left to our own devices. I go back to waving at truckers. So that stuck with me. It was just sort of a favorite number of mine for a really long time. And I have a friend who I also play music with, and his favorite number is 47. So this kind of came back into my consciousness, and it, you know, my old business, which was it was successful, but we did two completely different things. You know, I'm following my advice about brand. This would not be what I would tell anybody to do, is to have a managed services business, you know, managing Microsoft-based networks for small companies, and an agency, a branding, and you know, those two things don't really go together. So my partner and I decided to split into two companies in 2019, and I'm looking for a name. I'm trying to figure out what the name of the company is going to be. So it's actually July 4th, 2019. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm meeting with my partner the next day and a consultant to kind of finalize how this is all going to go down. And I'm watching a documentary called Bob Lazar and Area 51.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah. No, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And supposedly he worked not in Area 51. It was another part of Area 51 where he's learning about alien spacecraft, which happen to be in the news right now. So he is being told what powers these alien spacecraft. And he said, it was element 115 or 117, which were not on the periodic table at the time, I understand. They have a half-life of like a second.
Okay, gotcha.
They're man-made.
Yeah.
And I thought, element, man, that's kind of a good name, because that can mean a lot of different things. And so I like that. I wrote it down on my iPad, element 115, element 117. I thought, those numbers don't mean anything to me. So what? Oh, I know, 47, which is silver. But
I was about to ask what it was.
Yeah.
Sorry, chemistry teachers in high school. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
It's silver, come to find out. And so what's funny is, so I can tell people my company is Element 47. Nobody asks what element it is. Nobody ever asks. I mean, I've had like 3 people ask. The first person to ask was my partner the next day. He's like, well, what is Element 47? That's what, silver? And he knew. because he was a science guy.
Yeah,
but nobody ever asks. And so they ask me, well, how did you come up with the name? And so I get to tell them a story about my dad and about how, and the reason why I decided to call it Element 47 ultimately is that when we have people come to us and they tell us their problems, they tell us what they want to achieve, they start to ask, well, how long is this going to take?
47.
How much is this going to cost? Exactly. I don't know. So
this could take 3 years.
Yeah.
it could cost. It's going to cost some money.
Yeah.
But we've got to have some conversations internally about what, and we're going to have to do some more discovery to really know what the cost is going to be.
Oh yeah, and we're in that same boat every single day. We get a phone call and we're and they're like, "Can you do this for this?" And we're like, "No."
47.
Yeah, I think we need to start using that and just referencing this podcast interview.
Yeah. Well, we are in a space where, you don't really know how many resources are going to have to go into something.
In the initial, for people that are not business owners, you have this discovery phase where you're walking through with a new client and you're trying to figure out the exact scope of work.
Yes.
And a lot of clients have no idea the scope of work or the amount of resources that you have to be able to pull off that scope of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so giving a quote to somebody, you're just like, okay, this quote is based on previous experience plus the gear that we have for this, plus the knowledge we have for this, plus all the teams that you have to have for this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's...
And a few other little bits of detritus floating around in my head that I haven't necessarily communicated to you as the client.
How much overhead do I have?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many factors. And I was talking to, so we just started another company. 2 weeks ago.
Cool.
Or 3 weeks ago. We'll be announcing what that is here in the future. But I was talking to a guy last night, and I'm just like, okay, so like the end product has to be this product of excellence, and if it's not, you have to curate it so it is a product of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about that for like an hour, and I'm like, oh crap, my mind is just like on these products. But it's just really interesting being in the situation as operators, because at the end of the day, you have a team that you have to pay, and so it's just a really interesting. And I'm learning all of this because we're still relatively new in the business world.
Yeah, we didn't go to school to be business owners.
But I've been self-employed since the age of 6.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mowing grasses and stuff. So
yeah, and it's like for family, everybody on my dad's side of the business has a dad's side of the family has a business almost, and so it's like those things that you try to fight, but then you're like, oh, dang, I actually really like doing everything myself and creating things, and it just happened to be in the form of a business that best executed that. So it is very interesting. What has it been? Did you always know that you wanted to run your own business once you started that path?
Yeah. I mean, once I started it became normal because I have an inordinate amount of ideas. I'm constantly coming up with new things. So I had to kind of figure out where I was going to fit in the business world. Obviously, I'm not an accountant. I did work for an accounting firm for 3 years. That was an interesting experience. But
was it dry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just wasn't my thing.
It just seems like a very dry environment.
The culture was not a good fit for me. They're great people. I learned how to use Excel,
which
really
is
well.
that's a good thing.
That's a really good
thing.
skill.
That's a skill set I wish I had some days.
We'll go to an accounting firm for like 6 months. We'll come back.
It's just by osmosis I picked up on it. But I began to realize that there were some things I was good at, and one is talking to people and making relationships and helping people find what they need in the world, and so that kind of became my MO. I was the guy out building relationships, finding the next customer. So
I understand that.
Yeah.
And
you tell enough people what you're looking for, and eventually you seem to find it. There's what's the law of attraction, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the 100 no's for 1 yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I try to get to know as quickly as possible. If somebody tells me they want something, they're interested in a website or build a logo for us. It's like, okay, let's find the reason why you're not going to do business with me. Well, what's your budget? That's usually a good start.
That's a great start. That's what we've noticed with a lot of clients. So recently, there's been this tremendous rise in artificial intelligence.
Yes.
What are your thoughts as an operator on the subject of artificial intelligence? We have started implementing a ton of artificial intelligence into our business. We use
ChatGPT.
We use that quite a bit. We're starting to do. There's so many different AI software. So, what are your thoughts as an operator in this realm?
I believe that it's going to be a tool for saving time, kind of like a washing machine.
Yeah.
You know, people used to beat their laundry with rocks and take them to the river or whatever. These images you have in your head of the olden days when washing machines didn't exist.
Yeah.
It's simply a lever. It's a new way to save time and to access more information quickly. You still have to, in our business, you still have to know how to do the thing. You still have to be savvy. You still have to think for yourself, and but it's just going to give you a lot more tools to do things better, faster, cheaper.
And it makes as a business, it makes you more efficient.
Yes.
And if you don't have systems in place, you don't have efficiency.
Right. Now, if I'm doing it, if I'm using AI, and you're a firm across town that competes with us, you're looking at trying to acquire the same customers that we have, and I can do it for less, it's going to put you at a disadvantage. So I think there are a lot of folks that are going to be flat-footed out there. Of course, ChatGPT. I've only talked to like 2 people who didn't know what ChatGPT was. One of them was 11.
Well, it's the fastest growing platform in the last 20 years.
Yeah, 1 million users within a month. I mean,
besides, I've heard there was a meme going around. Besides Netflix canceling the password sharing thing, people started knowing what these Pirate Bay websites were, and the meme was ChatGPT, TPP, or whatever the word is. I always get it mess up. 1 million users in a month. Pirate Bay, 10 million users the first day after Netflix password.
Yeah.
So how? I know ways that we're implementing AI. Is there ways that you guys are implementing AI in your business?
Yeah. So we've been using it for a few years, and really not. There wasn't this splash like there has been lately.
It feels like AI is like the next NFT. Because the market, it's different. But that's what it feels like. The hype around it feels like an NFT.
Yeah. And it's not one thing. It's so many different things. It's and there are a lot of different ways to approach it. I went to a marketing conference last summer. It's the marketingaiinstitute.com.
That sounds cool.
Worth a look. And so the guy who founded it, Paul Rutzer, he owned an agency, and he saw what was coming, and he said, I'm going to get in front of this. I'm going to be sort of the voice of AI in marketing. Sold his agency and started this. And so I went to the conference, got introduced to him somehow, went to the conference, and he said, I've been saying for a few years that in 3 to 5 years, AI is going to completely transform marketing. And then, a few weeks ago, ChatGPT comes out of nowhere.
And then Microsoft invests $10 billion.
Yeah. Bill Gates, well, he's not involved in Microsoft anymore, so they say. But everybody is looking to get that foothold, that advantage. And there are scores of programs out there, systems out there that use AI now. So we've used it for a while to purchase advertising. So, digital ads, pay-per-click advertising, whatever you want to call it. We've been using that. The knowledge that those companies have about where to spend your money.
Nice.
And, so we've been doing that for quite some time. There's Grammarly. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've been using that for years.
Yeah, that's AI.
Yep.
And gosh, I mean, I look at those and I finish an email and it's like, you've got 12 dumb things that you've done here.
And I'm like,
wow.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think it makes you better.
Yeah.
But there are a lot more coming. There are ways to create music now through AI that's not licensed.
Yep. There's ways to create NFTs through AI,
stock
stock
photos.
Images.
Yeah, DALL-E 2 is pretty slick.
And then we're onboarding one right now. It's called was it AI Boss or something like that?
ChatGPT Boss.
So you get these fake employees through this Boss AI, and eventually they're going to have accounting services that are offered through this.
But what's the weird thing?
But the weird thing is,
because I said this to Stuart
So
yesterday, we've started using it,
and
and
so-
the first thing he said to me this morning.
The AI can't do math.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
So
it
the
can't,
AI
the
accountant-
accountant can't do math right yet. It's coming, and the first email you get, it's like, hey, this is still only 34 days old. Like this company's only
Right.
34 days old.
We're an
But-
infant. Infants don't know how to do math.
Yeah, the accountant doesn't know how to do math, and I'm like, then okay. From an operations standpoint, where do you want your company to be in the next 3 to 5 years?
So I don't really want to have an enormous company. It's
Yep.
just not who I am. You know, our goal right now is to be at $5 million in top line revenue
Yep.
in 2030. The problem with that number, it doesn't really excite me. I
Yeah,
mean, and it certainly doesn't excite my employees.
It's what you do within the space that you're doing that really
Yes.
matters, and maybe it takes $5 million to accomplish that. And
Right.
$5 million has the significance in that regard, but it's actually what you do inside of your company.
Yeah. So I'll get real philosophical for a moment. I discovered what my core purpose in the world is a few years ago, which was a powerful thing, and that is it's your God-given purpose, why you're here on earth, and
Yes.
mine is to connect and grow people.
Yes.
So I feel like I do that through marketing. We're connecting people. We're connecting customers, people who want to buy and purchase services
Yep.
to somebody who can do that for them. And what we've created at Element 47, I don't do it alone. It's the whole team that creates this. Is we've created a culture where people can be really good at what they do. They can have a good life because they're providing service to the world that people are willing to pay them for, and they can make other businesses better. I mean,
Yeah.
it's capitalism.
Yes.
And
And that's an amazing thing.
people like to talk bad about capitalism these days, and there are certainly some bad examples of how it's gotten out of hand. But for me, I'm out here. I'm creating services that people want to buy that can then use and turn into value for themselves. Whether it's they make more money, they're able to hire more people, and they're doing the same things that we are. They're giving people an opportunity to ply their trade and help grow the economy and live in a house, keep the water off their head at night, keep
Yep.
the wolves away, and educate their kids, and it's what makes good culture.
Yeah, that's a great place to be, and that's where we're hoping to be
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So congratulations on all the stuff that you guys have already done. I want to close this interview out going in the weird direction of things. So recently we've seen in the news, this go back to, we'll go back to the Bob Lazar direction.
Yeah.
So we've seen in the news
On,
recently.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, so there is
Three things shot
obviously
down.
an object in Alaska that was shot
Yep.
down over Canada airspace and over, how do you say it, Huron?
Huron.
Yeah,
Huron.
in Michigan.
And so if there was ever to be an object that was mistakenly shot down over Nashville, what would that, if it turned out that it was something just that naturally was happening in Nashville that accidentally was identified for a UFO, what would that object end up being mistaken as?
Mine is a hot chicken blimp. So it's a giant chicken blimp that's
It's
being
like
shot
a
down.
shape of like a chicken tender or something
yeah,
like
like
that.
a giant chicken tender blimp.
like chicken
Which-
tender advertising
yeah,
blimp.
Whoever is doing blimps, make a chicken tender.
No, it'll get
please.
shot down.
It would be amazing. We would have so much news coverage. It would be so much fun.
But you want to wait. You can't shoot it down immediately
you have to
because
see-
hot oil would come out,
Yeah.
and you don't need that.
Hot
Yeah.
chicken oil rain all over Nashville.
Everyone will be crying.
I'm thinking more like hot tub with bachelorettes.
That'd
You know?
be pretty cool.
That's on brand.
Yeah,
too.
it's on brand.
So
Yeah.
like the party vehicle hot tub, except it got elevated to the
Yeah.
A
sky.
sky lift.
And I say that because the first one they shot down over Alaska, it was about the size of a car.
It was, yeah.
But they're not saying what else happened.
No.
No, we're waiting I'm sure the CIA is on site. I'm sure they're going to do what's best for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can always trust what they've got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always makes me wonder, like, for Nashville, like I feel like there's going to be so many people just literally putting things up in the air now just to see if it gets attention.
Well, the thing is so like I live right next to the airport. Yesterday they were launching 5 or 6 of the fighter jets, and then 1 or 2 of the C-130s.
Oh
like
wow,
big boys.
Oh yeah.
They kept going doing their rounds, and I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
wow.
what's happening?
Yeah. They're ready.
Are you shooting down something over Old Hickory Lake? Like, is that what's happening?
I feel I had this thought. This was like in 2018, 2017, thinking to myself, man, we've got life pretty good.
Yes.
Things have been pretty easy.
Yeah.
And
Way too easy.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden 2020 comes around. I'm like, why did I have to think? I feel like I conjured this up.
Yeah.
This is not helping. And now we've got aliens maybe on the horizon.
They won't rule it out. So until they rule it out, then Bob Lazar is going to be in the news a lot.
Yes.
Is he the guy that has the crazy hair? Who's that guy?
No.
The alien? He's like,
I can't remember. Bob Lazar is like this big, like, bodybuilder type guy who
he was a scientist.
I can't remember
No,
exactly. That's not Bob
That's
Lazar.
not Barber. Bob's kind of mild and meek fella.
Who's the guy who's like this big, like
I'm not sure.
bodybuilder type figure who he has a documentary as well out
Okay.
that was around that same time.
Okay.
I can't remember. He's coming to mind now. Let us know in the comments who that is. All of our alien people getting mixed up right now.
Yeah.
Eric, where could people learn more about Element 47?
Element47.co, not .com. If you go to element47.com,
It's going to take you somewhere
it's
else.
a book about collecting
Silver.
antique silver.
That's cool.
I've tried to buy the domain name. The lady will not respond. She wanted $250,000 for the
Oh
domain
my
name.
gosh.
So I said, good luck.
Yeah.
It's not happening with me.
Do you get a lot of UK traffic from a .co?
No. No.
Awesome.
Nick, go ahead and play that outro
Yeah, Nick,
music.
hit the outro. Everybody in the comments say hello to Nick in the control room. He's controlling everything
sound
that
effects
happens
and
here
everything.
with this podcast. But Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
you sharing everything about your company, your vision, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Head to NashvilleDailyPodcast.com to learn more about Nashville, and check out our other YouTube channel, Explore.Nash. And we also have Explore Tennessee. I know we have a lot of content. Thank you for listening to the Nashville Daily Podcast. If you want to learn more, head to NashvilleDailyPodcast.com.
You can also follow us on social media at explore.nash on Instagram, Nashville Daily Podcast on YouTube, and explore.nash on YouTube as well.
The Nashville Daily Podcast is an Explore LLC production, copyright 2023.